we've set it up so that whoever's speaking is front and center. For those who don't know who I am, my name is Brian Keshen. I have the honor to be the CEO of Reena, working alongside over 800 compassionate care providers here in the Greater Toronto. We support over 1,000 individuals with a range of disabilities and support needs in the area. We have been longtime partners with Israeli organizations, and over the last 4 years have taken 2 missions of politicians, care providers, caregivers, Canadians of all sorts from Montreal, Calgary, Ottawa, Toronto. We brought researchers, family members, people with lived experience, Jewish, Hindu, Christian, Muslim, agnostic, and many others with us. And together we spent a great deal of time getting to know some of the common issues and common challenges our sector faces in Israel, and learned many lessons about passion and care. When I learned about the horrific acts that took place Saturday and the ensuing actions that and impact on Israel, I reached out to my colleagues there just to say, I'm here for you, and to see what support they needed. Today, this Zoom call is really a way to stretch that care. We're presently online, I think close to 100 people, or nearing 100 people. So to my Israeli colleagues, you should know that we as Canadians, and I think there's some Americans who have joined us from this sector, are here to be with you and share in your pain and empathize with the challenges you're facing and hope for a better tomorrow. As Israelis, you should know that Canadian leaders, our Prime Minister, premiers have continued to express anger at the outrageous act of terror and stand in support of Israel. I know our Foreign Minister, Mr. Jolie, is on her way to Israel to express that and show that in real terms. And our Prime Minister Monday, and I quote, said, Canada unequivocally and in the strongest possible terms condemns these terrorist attacks perpetrated by Hamas. We stand with Israel and reaffirm our support for Israel's right to defend itself. As Canadians, we're very aware of the value of listening and the acts that alone adds to reconciliation and recognition of others. Today, we hope to hear from you and connect and feel and support you. Here in Vaughan, I also recognize that we're situated in territory and Treaty 13 lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations. We recognize these traditional territories are for lands of the Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and many First Nations, including Métis and Inuit. And we learn and work together with those peoples on these lands we share and call Canada. But we also come together affirming a broader shared humanity. And this speaks to the acknowledgement of acts against people with disability. So people without regard to their abilities or disabilities contribute to the makeup of our world, as all humanity comes from one ancestral source, and each of us contains a spark of that heavenly creator. We all have a place in the tapestry of humanity. Every soul is unique and sacred. It's our collective responsibility to ensure that everyone is afforded equal opportunities and the chance to live a meaningful and fulfilling life. So let us, in this moment, challenge ourselves, our leaders, to dismantle barriers, build cohesion, and champion the rights and dignity of every person. I'm not sure if Minister Tibollo has joined us yet.
No, he has not, if you'd like to continue.
So hopefully Minister Tibollo will join us shortly, in which case I really want to jump right to inviting our guests from Israel to introduce themselves, the services, to share what's happening for them so that we can hear and find and just be there for you. Again, we are now some 110 people who have joined this. So I will turn it over to my friend, colleague, and the CEO of Israel Elwyn, David Marcoux.
Thank you, Brian. I want to thank you. I want to thank the Reena organization and all of you for joining us today. It's not something we take for granted. I think that the fact that we in Israel feel relatively, not even relatively, we feel really, really in a difficult position right now is certainly helped by the fact that there's so many people, Jewish and non-Jewish, from all over the world who have been reaching out to us. And so I really appreciate your setting this up today. I know I have a fairly short time to present what I want to present, so I'll do it fairly quickly. But I want to start with telling you what it was like last Shabbat morning. And I live in Jerusalem, which is probably one of the safer parts of the country. And yet, in the morning, went on Simchat Torah, which is one of the happiest days of the Jewish calendar when we celebrate the completion of an entire year of reading the Torah. Went to synagogue with my wife at 6:30 in the morning. We went to an early service, and about an hour or so into it, the air raid sirens went off, which is not something that happens commonly here. There are sometimes drills, there are sometimes other reasons why it might happen, but in general, we were sort of taken aback. We all went to the shelter at the synagogue, spent about 5-10 minutes in the shelter, and then when it went off, we went back outside, had no idea whether this was a real thing or it wasn't. Completed the service, went off to have refreshments in an area not far from the synagogue outdoors, and there were 3 or 4 more alarms that came on. And then we knew that something was not right. Even though people who are religious don't use telephones on either the Shabbat or on a holiday, and this was both, a number of young people went to get their telephones because they wanted to find out immediately if this was real and if they were going to be called up for military service, which is indeed what happened. And so during the course of the day, it became more and more clear what was happening. But again, we in Jerusalem had nothing compared to what went on for the people who are really involved in the south of the country. You've heard probably plenty, but I want to point out that this was something we've never, ever encountered before. There was absolute horrible, horrible attacks on a number of communities, on a rock festival, which was sort of the Israeli version of Woodstock. Hundreds of people were attacked, brutally in many cases. There were people, as you know, kidnapped. There was rape. There were young children, even babies, who were both captured and killed. There were elderly people. And all of this only became known to us within the course of as the day began to unwind. By the end of the day, even much we didn't find out until the ensuing days. And I think one of the things you have to realize, some of you have, probably many of you have been to Israel, and some of you were recently in Israel. But one of the things you have to realize is that we're an incredibly small country. About 10 million people living in a space an awful lot smaller than Canada. And so while everyone doesn't know everything, everyone, as you might have heard, everybody knows someone who knows someone. And so the stories have just been coming out, and the funerals and the shivas, day after day. Our organization, just for example, and I'm sure my colleagues who are on now will be able to tell you similar things. We had a young woman who, along with both her parents and her sister, were brutally murdered at Kibbutz Nahal Oz in the south of the country. She was one of our service recipients. Another service recipient, Liron Bolds, who recently completed a course to become a preschool teacher's aide that we gave, and appeared on a Zoom with representatives of the Weinberg Foundation who funded the course just a few weeks ago. Her brother was killed at the music festival, her brother Daron. Her name is Liron Bolds. It's important to say the names. Another one of our staff, just last night at 10 o'clock at night, attended the funeral of her brother, Evyatar, who was a soldier ambulance driver. I'm sorry, not her brother, her son, who was an ambulance driver for the military and was tragically killed during the fighting in the South. And another one of our staff members is in the process of mourning for her nephew. So in one organization, we already have 4 people who are horribly connected to this. And I'm sure that the other organizations who are on with you are going to be able to say some of the same things. So what do I also want to mention? Besides how terrible this has been and how unique and how we've never experienced anything like this in the last decades, at least. I've been living in Israel for 39 years and have never seen anything like this. But at the same time, there's a bit of a positive picture as well, because Israelis have really stepped up in heroism. Many people went to defend their homes and actively resisted. People have been organizing almost minute by minute. We get a WhatsApp message about a collection of materials to send to soldiers, food to provide for people who husbands or wives or children have gone off to perform military reserve duty, who are at home, and so we're bringing them food. All of these things are happening at the same time that there are very, very long lines for people who want to donate blood. There are there's a sort of new, I think it's new, custom that's just become a thing here, which is when people are heading off to a funeral of a loved one, all of their neighbors get together with Israeli flags and create a procession on both sides so that they can see the support they're receiving. The military reported, I just heard this last night, that 130% of the people called for reserve duty showed up. Now, what does that mean? It's not, it sounds like a joke about accountants, but 130% means 100% of the people called up showed up, and an additional 30% merely came. Even though they were not called up for reserve duty, they went south and they went to try to volunteer and be part of what's going on. There are cars parked on the sides of the roads in southern Israel of all these reservists who immediately went down, whether they were called or not, to try to help. It's very, very impressive to see how the country can really come together. And we do firmly believe that we're going to succeed. We're going to overcome this. It may take a lot of time. It's probably not something that's going to happen in minutes. Your help and the help of people from all over the world is important, not only for us in terms of psychologically, but also I would say your help is very, very important to us on a very tangible and non-tangible level. And so we feel embraced right now, but we also know that we have a long road ahead before we can get past this. So what are the feelings that are being felt right now? Anger, fear, uncertainty, but at the same time, a willingness to help, to be part of this, to live. I can assure you that we are, as I said, going to overcome this. And I just want to mention a story that President Biden mentioned 2 nights ago about his first time in Israel as a young senator, when he was meeting with Golda Meir, who was our prime minister at the time, right after the Yom Kippur War, which was 50 years ago, now 50 years ago. And she said to Senator Biden at the time that our secret weapon in Israel is that we have nowhere else to go. And so I think that that's part of the message as well. We have to win this. We have to overcome this adversity because we have no other option. Thank you so much for having me.
David, just if you could take a minute and talk about the impact on service.
The impact on...
I can't imagine it's not impacting the lives of those you support.
Hugely impacting in many ways. Number one, I think, is the impact of the fact that all of our day services are currently closed. They've been closed all week. That's by decision of the Army Home Front Command. All of the local governments with which we work give us the final word, but they're really doing it based on the situation assessment that they get from the Army's or the IDF's Home Front Command. Our supported living services are all having, we had issues before trying to get staff, but now there are staff who are doing reserve duty or whose family members are doing reserve duty, so they have to be home with their children. There are staff who come from the Arab sector who find it difficult to get through roadblocks. So we're finding it very difficult, but one of the things we've been able to do is recruit among the staff of the day programs who are currently not doing anything for them to come and fill in gaps, and they've been doing that. The other thing they're all doing, and again, I think our staff have been acting heroically, is they're staying in touch with each other. They're staying in touch with their service recipients, whether by Zoom or by telephone or by WhatsApp. And so people are stepping up and people are really trying to do something, but it's going to be a challenge. And I'm talking about just the last 6 days. This could go on for weeks and longer. And so we're going to have to see where it takes us. We don't know whether on Sunday morning some of our day services will reopen. It's possible that we'll be given the okay for that to happen. It's also possible we won't. Brian? I think you're on mute.
Thank you. I understand also some of the supply chains were challenged. I see that Minister Tibollo has joined us. Minister, we did a brief introduction and background, and David Marcoux spoke, who heads up Israel Elwyn. an agency very similar to Reena, but much more diverse and spread across Israel. But I'd like, if you don't mind, to say a few words as you speak to the 120 folks who have joined us in support as we listen to our Israeli colleagues. Mr. Tibollo.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Brian, and thanks for the opportunity to listen. David, my heart and my condolences go out to you and to the people of Israel. When I first heard what was happening Saturday, I was glued to the TV the entire day, flipping between CNN, CBC, trying to understand why something like this could happen, and obviously the implications not just for the Jewish people in Israel, but all the Jewish people around the world, and the anxiety and the depression and all the other emotions that are drawing up, the anger, the fear. As the Minister for Mental Health and Addictions for the province, these are all the things that immediately come to mind. And of course, in an emergency situation like this, what resources are available, not just in Israel, but what can we do in the province of Ontario to help the Jewish people? So we immediately started doing things like activating a Yiddish line, and it'll be announced today publicly, so that any person who needs support that's culturally appropriate on the kids' help phone line, our most vulnerable, have that opportunity. And we all know, especially when it comes to moral injury, trauma, and PTSD, the moral injury, I don't know how many of my friends here are feeling that they should be there helping or somehow more involved. And so the impact that has, and if it's not checked, if we don't provide the appropriate supports, it becomes trauma. And then how many people that are of the Jewish faith are feeling this as a traumatic experience and reigniting historic trauma that's intergenerational and that they feel. I remember a story, and I mentioned it yesterday to someone. A long time ago, someone by the name of Jerry Springer, who the Canadians and the Americans would know who that is, told a story of his father who kept a car in the garage, gassed up, and he would go and start it every once in a while. And Jerry asked him one day, Dad, you can't see, you can't drive, you don't have a driver's license anymore, but you keep that 1957 car immaculate, and why don't you sell it? And he goes, son, you never know when I'm going to need it to run, and we need to have this ready to go. How can you live your life with that fear and that emotion? And then, of course, we see what's happened now, and then ignites it all over again. We are working as a province. There were statements that were put out to our schools to ensure that teachers keep opinions to themselves should they be wanting to express any opinion other than the solidarity that was very clearly spoken by our Prime Minister, by our Premier and our Prime Minister. But our Premier came out Sunday night with a very strong statement about our support for Israel, for the Israeli people. And, again, from my standpoint, I am working with the minister that's responsible for culture and immigration, and talking about more things that we can do. I can talk for a long time on this issue. It's just heartbreaking to see something like this happening again to a population of people that have suffered a great deal already, that have done nothing but contribute to world peace and provide so much to the Western world from the standpoint of economics and science and medicine. I just, like I said, my colleagues, we in a cabinet meeting had a discussion about this as well, and we're all, again, very supportive of all of you. And if there's anything that we can do through the agencies like Reena, that does incredible work in Ontario, helping our most vulnerable, we're here for you. We're here with you, and we will stand together to continue this war against these human atrocities that have no place whatsoever in our society. So, David, God bless you. Stay strong. Know that you've got allies and communities and friends all over the world, and especially in Ontario, that stand with you and will ensure that the right things are done and that we move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. It's been amazing, the leadership that has been provided by our premier, our prime minister, I think throughout, and just the sense of it being both a Israel issue and somewhat of a local issue. The fear Israel and the support is very much appreciated. And so thank you. And I heard the same from your colleague federally, the minister as well. So I'm going now, I know we have a few other of our Israeli colleagues online, and I want to hear from them. We have Michael Lawrence, who is Chief Advancement Officer at Beit Izzy Shapiro. Beit Izzy is a amazing leader in worldwide in advancing the needs and supports for people with disabilities, particularly children. We've had a strong, long-lasting relationship with Beit Izzy. So, Michael, if you could share with us what's happening at Beit Izzy and the sort of things you're doing to help support the families and kids that you work with.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Brian, thank you very much for the warm welcome. Of course, it would be, I hope the next time we'll get together, it will be under much better circumstances, but it is definitely heartwarming to see so many people here, and also an honor to be here with other incredible, hardworking and impactful organizations from our field here in Israel. So thank you to everyone. We're almost approaching a week, aren't we, since this nightmare began. It's I can't tell if time is moving slowly or time is moving very, very fast, but it's a nightmare nonetheless. Just personally, I can relate very much to what David just shared with us about being in synagogue on Shabbat. Similar for me. Unfortunately, my son, my oldest son, 17 years old, was in Sderot for Shabbat and during the events there, and we did spend most of our Shabbat, which we don't normally do, on our phones trying to find him. Thankfully, we're one of the lucky families, and I recognize that many are not, but our son is home and safe. These events, these horrific events, really started for us as a family in a very stressful way, over and beyond air raid sirens as well, of course, and so on. I think it's known to all of us that when crisis shakes a nation, it shakes vulnerable populations even further. And I think that speaks very, very much of people with disabilities and families who have children with disabilities in particular, physical, intellectual, and so on. And some of the greatest difficulties this week that we're finding for the families is that, as far as Beit Izzy is concerned, and all special needs frameworks in Israel, our special needs school is closed, and our early intervention centers are closed. We have two. So we're seeing their families, like all of us, are juggling with our children at home, but those with children with very complex and severe and multiple disabilities find this period very, very difficult, as they did during the lockdowns during COVID and so on. But here, extra pressure, extra distress, extra feeling of panic and danger and so on. And this is hard for lack of a better word, a typical family or regular family, but those struggling with other things already very, very complicated. As David said, it's striking very close to home. Our CEO, Amir Lerner, just shared with us the other day that he was leaving the office and he didn't know which funeral he was going to. He had two funerals he had to be at the very same time. And at the same time, in his reality, he has a son in combat right now outside Gaza. So the emotions we're pulled in 1 million directions, and the families we support really, really, I give them great credit for standing so strong, but they look to us, as they look to other organizations in Israel, really for support, guidance, and extra strength at this time. In terms of what we're trying to achieve now, I can tell you that Beit Izzy Shapiro reopened on Tuesday. Okay, we are not only a school and an early intervention center, we do provide outpatient services and all kinds of therapies. to 3,000 outpatients as well. So we did reopen those outpatient services on Tuesday according to Home Front Command sign-off. We have not been able to open our educational facilities. We hope that will happen soon, but again, we have to see how things unfold here. What we are arranging right now, we have launched a volunteer network. We are hoping, we already have 150 volunteers, younger and older, who are willing to spend time in the homes of those children who cannot come to our facilities during the day at the moment, so that those parents can have some support. Many of those parents, of course, one or other of the parents has been called away to the army. So make all their sons or daughters, the siblings of the child with disabilities, have been called away. So we're setting up a network of volunteers around where we are in order to make sure that those families are supported, even a half an hour of respite, so the parent can sit and have a coffee or call their soldier who's in the army and see how they are while someone's caring for the other child. This is a huge thing. In addition, we have a couple of hundred so far families who have fled from the south of the country and are bedded down in Ra'anana, which is where our main campus is located. And we are now opening our center in Ra'anana for not only respite and leisure activities, but we'll be also offering free therapies as required, as much as we can. Emotional therapy, which is something we are experts in general for people with disabilities, but we will be providing for families in general. We do have a sports center and what can be a very impactful snoozelen, multi-sensory room as well, and hydrotherapy pools, which the children from the south, we hope, will be able to use in the coming weeks in order just to have some downtime and relaxing time and some time in safety and leisure and to be children again. So this is some things that we're creating. The other thing we're doing now, and we're accustomed to spreading everything that we do globally and across Israel, is that we are developing courses. We already had one with, I think, 36 families. This week, courses online, where we'll be providing support and guidance to families who have someone in their family group with a serious disability. We'll be providing those courses now ongoing, both in Hebrew and also in Arabic, to Arab Israelis, so that they also can get the support, and everyone can get the support and guidance that they need and the strengthening they need at this time. So really, that's a summary of where we are. We are a very resilient country. Last Shabbat, there was a deep, and you felt it, I'm sure everyone felt it around the world, but in the Jewish community in particular, a deep sense of panic and shock and horror. I think the tide, I'm careful with my words, the tide has turned meantime towards a sense that the IDF is now in control of the situation, but there is much scarring. There is much mourning still to do, and many people still missing and seriously injured. So we're only in the beginning, but we at Beit Izzy at least are doing what we can to help our population and our families and help those from the south that we can do as well.
Thank you, Michael. I think most Canadians may not realize that the organizations that we're talking about serve all Israelis of all faiths and cultures, and while you take it for granted, you're serving all these diverse populations in the minds of some of the people that they may not have assumed it or understood it, and so important. And the international work you guys do, thank you. I'd like to ask Ziv Magor and Marcel Danieli. Ziv is CEO of Alumot Or, and Marcel is head of school. I think Marcel only speaks Hebrew, but we'll make sure to translate if needed and where needed. So Ziv.
Hi, Brian. Thanks for inviting me, and Marcel. Hi, everyone. My name is Ziv Magor. In the last 12 years, I work in the field of people with disabilities. I work for Alut, for JDC Israel, is an Unlimited, and now I'm the CEO of Alumot Or, which is an organization that promote excellence in special education around Israel. You started to mention, Brian, about Izzy Shapira. We work with people, students from Jews, Arabs, Muslim, Druze, all over the country, 15 schools all over the country. Most of our schools are for students with autism, intellectual disabilities, mental issue, and also for children at risk. I know we have a short time, but I just want to say that last Saturday I woke up. I live in Givatayim, which is next to Tel Aviv. I woke up to the siren echoed, and at 6:30 a.m., as everyone else in Israel, I thought it's a mistake. It's a false siren because it's never happened in Tel Aviv. And since then, I think we are in shock. Everyone is still in shock. Everybody, as you mentioned, know anyone. And when I invited Marcel, which is one of our principals in Benjamin Rotman Esher Nasi, which is next to Gaza border. And she will also, Marcel, you can speak, of course, in Hebrew, and me or maybe Sharon will translate it to Ryan to English, whatever you want. All of us, Marcel students and the professional team are coming from 35 close border communities, and everyone there. So the influence is immediately and directly. And Marcel, maybe we'll start to talk, and if we have time, I'll say other things, but I think you need to say what you've been through since last Saturday, and also with the school. Marcel?
צהריים טובים, שמי מרסל, אני גרה בקיבוץ גבים בשער הנגב, נמצא בין שדרות לכפר עזה. לצערי יש רעשים ברקע, זה בדיוק ההפגזות והאזעקות שיש עכשיו, אז אם אני אצטרך לקום ולצאת רגע לממ"ד, אז תסלחו לי.
Okay, just a second, Marcel. Brian, Sharon, if it makes it easier if one of you.
I can jump in. Thank you, Marcel. Marcel was saying that she lives in Kibbutz Gevim, close to Gaza, and still, as we are here on this conversation, there's a sense of immediacy, and there might be a need for her to evacuate because of the still the rockets that raining in on that area. Go ahead, Marcel.
אני אימא לשלושה ילדים, שניים קצינים לוחמים בצבא, לא שמעתי מהם כבר 6 ימים, אחד מהאוויר ואחד מהיבשה, וילד צעיר בן 11 עם אוטיזם, שהיה איתי ביום שבת בבית בחדירת המחבלים ובהפגזות שהפתיעו אותנו.
Marcel has 3 children, 2 of them serving in combat units, and she has not heard from them in the last 6 days. And her youngest is 11-year-old with autism that was with her in her house while the attack happened on Saturday.
ביום שבת בבוקר, ב6:30, שמענו אזעקות מאוד חזקות. הרגשתי שהרעשים והתדירות לא אופיינית לאזעקות שאנחנו בדרך כלל חווים. הייתי לבד עם הבן שלי בבית, הערתי אותו מהר, רצנו לממ"ד, וכשראיתי שהאזעקות לא מפסיקות, אמרתי שאני אגש רגע להטיל את מימיי, לשטוף פנים, כי זה הולך להיות ארוך. השארתי את הילד במקלט, וכשאני מצחצחת שיניים, שמעתי יריות אדירות, שמעתי קריאות בערבית, וקפאתי במקום. לא יכולתי לזוז.
Marcel, let me just translate. Marcel was home on Saturday at 6 in the morning, starting to hear unusually loud and unusually intense bombing and loud noises, including shootings. And she didn't know how to grasp that because she obviously did not know what is coming. And while her son was still asleep in her bed, she tried to start moving him towards her home shelter. בבקשה.
למזלי, חלק מהאוטיזם זה לא להבין מה קורה מסביב באופן אותנטי. והוא התחיל לצרוח על אותם מחבלים שיהיו בשקט, שהוא לא יכול לשמוע את הרעש הזה. וזה מה שעזר לי לזוז, כי נכנסתי למצב קטטוני. זה מה שעזר לי לקום. רצתי בטירוף מוחלט להגיף תריסים, לסגור חלונות, לנעול את הדלתות. לקחתי סכין ונכנסתי לממ"ד.
Okay. Part of being autistic, the experience that her child is not comprehending fully what the surrounding situation is, and her son started yelling as he heard the rockets and the loud noises of shooting. He started yelling and like asking the people around him to be more quiet and to because he was disturbed of his sleep. Marcel started running around her house, trying to shut the windows, shut the door, and she was starting to get into a state of shock and running into her shelter.
תוך כדי שאני סוגרת לו את הפה, חזק, ומשחקת איתו במשחק, שזה משחק יריות בכאילו, כדי שהמציאות והדמיון יתערבבו ביחד, אני מקבלת הודעות בוואטסאפ השכונתי. הם פה, הם בשכונה שלי, תעזרו לי, הם נכנסו, הם שורפים, הם מגיעים. אני מקבלת הודעות בקבוצת המורים שאני מנהלת אותם, תתפללו עליי, וההודעות לא מפסיקות להגיע עם תמונות.
Marcel, just a second, I'll let the Marcel tried to calm her son and put her hand on his mouth so he is not loud, so they're not noticed, while getting frantic messages from different WhatsApp community groups within her kibbutz and within the school that she heads, at people frantically saying, pray for our lives. There are people outside, there are people shooting, we need of help.
משעה 6:30 עד שעה 1:15, פשוט שכבתי על הבן שלי, שלא יקום, ונאבקתי בו שלא יפתח את הדלת. הצבא הגיע ב1:15. הזמן היה נראה לא עובר מלכת, וכל הזמן ואין חשמל, והקליטה נכנסת ויוצאת, ואני מנסה להשיג את החיילים שלי, אני מנסה להשיג את בעלי, אני לא מצליחה להשיג אף אחד. במקביל מורים שלי מתחילים להתקשר ולספר, והזוועות מתחילות להיחשף.
Marcel, just a second. For about 6 hours, from 6 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon, Marcel and her son spent all this time in their bomb shelter. Marcel literally was over her son, so he's not moving, so he continues to be quiet and tries to have him continue to sleep. And only around 1 p.m. the police and the IDF has arrived. At this point, Marcel, I'm sorry to cut you here, but Ziv, do you want to continue maybe talking more about the impact that this situation had?
אני ארחיב עכשיו על זה.
Okay.
כן, אני מבינה אנגלית, אני פשוט מסרבת לדבר.
So Marcel will continue here, yeah.
אז זו החוויה האישית שלי, אבל אני רוצה לדבר על הכובע הנוסף שלי כמנהלת בית ספר לאוטיסטים.
אוקיי.
באותו זמן, כמה שעות אחרי, אני מבינה שיש לי תלמידה חטופה שנחטפה על ידי חמאס, יש לי מורה שנחטף, יש לי ילדים שהבתים נשרפים, שהם מסתתרים, יש הרוגים, יש פצועים, יש נעדרים, יש לי עשרות חברים שנרצחו, לתלמידים שלי, למורים שלי.
Okay, Marcel, did that translate? So Marcel has, in her own school, there is a girl that was kidnapped and a teacher that was kidnapped. Marcel indicated many of her friends that were murdered and kidnapped. But I think what's more impacting on her as a head of school is your student, her student that was kidnapped, and her teacher. And obviously that's a student with special needs, correct? Yeah.
אני כבר 6 ימים לא ישנה, ואני לא היחידה. לנהל בית ספר שיש בו 86 אנשי צוות, שכולם נפגעו, חלקם עקורים, בית ספר עם מעל 80 תלמידים באותה סיטואציה, ולמצוא את הכוח, למצוא את האור, למצוא את הכוחות, לחזק אחרים שאני בעצמי, יש לי שאלות.
Yeah. Marcel has 86 staff with about 80 students. and running a school like that in times like that is almost impossible. Every day she's trying to find the inner resources and optimism to continue and to support others while having, you know, struggle herself to find that strength within her. Go ahead.
אני נשארתי בבית, עדיין ביישוב פה, ממש 4 קילומטר מעזה, לא התפניתי, כל היישובים פה התפנו, היישוב שלי הוא מחנה צבאי לגמרי, ואני כרגע מתמודדת במהלך השבוע האחרון עם החזקה של בית ספר. יש מספר דברים שמטרידים אותי, איך אני מתמודדת עם יום המחר, המלחמה הזאת תיגמר, ובסוף אני אצטרך לאסוף אליי את התלמידים שבורי הלב, את ההורים שלהם ואת התלמידים, מה התוכנית לעכשיו, מה התוכנית למחר. במקביל יש לי תלמידים שכבר מבצעים ניסיונות אובדנות בבית, ואנחנו מרחוק אמורים להגיש עזרה ראשונה וטיפול. יש הורים שלא מסוגלים להחזיק את הילדים שלהם, הם לא רגילים שהם בבית, נואשים ומבקשים מאיתנו לקחת אותם. הם מתפנים למקומות שלא יכולים להכיל ולהחזיק את התלמידים שלנו.
Okay, Marcel, let me just translate. At this point, Marcel is almost the only person left in her kibbutz, and the area itself is surrounded by military. Marcel is heavily thinking about how to continue support the school at the time that she will be able to open. There's increased calls from parents who indicate that their children, special needs children, are trying to commit to hurt themselves or commit suicide, and her school is struggling right now to support them, obviously remotely via phone or via conference call. I think we'll take a little pause here. Ziv, was there anything you wanted to say, or Brian, is there anything you wanted to add at this point?
From my point of view, I just wanted you to listen and to hear Marcel, because she talks about her own experience and about how to still be a principal in the school during the war, during that shock, that everything, it's like a small thing, that what she said, it's what's happening right now emotionally and physically. And just it, and thank you for the opportunity. I know we have a short time, but you know, me and her can talk for hours. Yeah.
If I may add, Marcel, thank you for sharing that painful story and continuing pain. It's strange how leadership brings out the responsibility to care for others, and still you need to care for yourself while you're in pain and anguish. And I can't even imagine the kind of condition where most everyone is traumatized to a degree that is, beyond imagination. You're talking about a whole community that has been through, and particularly the kids and children whose parents couldn't manage to begin with. Now in this environment, playing that out. So I just, all the strength to you, whatever we can do to help. Please know that we're here, we hear you, and it's a painful story, and you are seemingly strong. So at least you're showing that strength, and just take care of yourself. I know we also have online Morit Berry, who's the head of Aline Hospital. Again, for those familiar with something like Holland Blue Review, think of Holland Blue Review in the Israeli context in Jerusalem. We were just there a few months ago visiting, again, an international center of training and care. I can't imagine what's going on there. So Morit, maybe you can share a bit of what's happening at Aline.
I'm not sure if Morit has been able to join us because
Morit's not here. Okay. Okay. So I guess Ziv, if you had, or Michael, or David, if you had anything else you want to add in the next 2 minutes. Otherwise, we will invite anyone who has questions or to put them on the chat. I know that in crisis, people step up, and but this is going to be a long run and a long challenge and a lot of rebuilding for those communities. So I don't know if there's anyone who has questions. I haven't seen it. It's Sharon. I don't know if you've seen any in the chat.
I don't see questions here on the chat.
Hey, Brian, just a note on the chat. It looks like we can only message the co-hosts.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if that's intentional or not, but maybe that's why you're not seeing anything.
If anyone has any questions, please message the co-host with the chat, and we'll put them on immediately.
Brian, you muted.
Yeah, I realized I was muted myself. Still can't get technology right. So I share some of that pain as Canadian leaders of organizations and people involved in this sector. I really just want to share with you some of what our colleagues are going through. The challenges on the human resource side are huge, just getting staff, sustaining staff. A lot of people aren't able to be a place. So when we look at our own challenges, they pale in comparison. And when we talk about supply chain breakdown, every resource is being moved and resourced to help those in crisis, from those in hospital to, nursing staff, medical staff, those who aren't called up into the army, so on and so forth. The sense of security, of roadblocks and safety and added barriers that are put on to help and support even people who are in areas of service like ours are often delayed in getting to work or stop going to work because of fear. It is not easy. So just to give people a sense on the human side, on the personal side, how immediate, and we heard from every single person that they knew someone. And that is the nature of Israel to a great degree, that you are one person away from knowing someone else in the country, and it becomes deeply personal. So we continue to be there for you, our colleagues, and I don't know, Mr. Tibollo, if you want to close us off with any thoughts.
Brian, I'm speechless. I mean, listening to those stories that we just heard, and some of the stories that are being told to us, clearly these barbaric acts have to be dealt with accordingly. And I know that Israel is moving forward and making sure that Hamas is eradicated once and for all, which would probably be a blessing to all mankind. I sent a note to Gary, if there's anything that we can do to support the schools for those with developmental challenges from Ontario in terms of fundraising, or for Israel to help the hospitals. I'm there, and I will do everything I can to promote and do more. I know that we're challenged here. The Jewish community is being challenged. I know that the security, there's been conversations between the OPP and Toronto Police, and they are, at a heightened state of alert as well, to make sure that the shuls and the centers are safe for the people here that fear repercussions here as well. None of us are we're all prey to this situation. We have to stand united. And as I said, our government stands united with Israel. It stands united with the people. And anything we can do, we're here to be part of the solution to make sure that Israel's safe, the people are safe, and that we continue along in a peaceful way, and ensure that everyone has the freedom and the right to feel safe at home and be able to do their work, their prayer, and raise their families in the traditions that are so important for the mental well-being of everyone. So God bless you all. My thoughts and prayers are with the people in Israel and the very, very difficult, tragic situation that they're having to deal with. But thoughts and prayers are one thing. We also have to step up and see what we can do to help financially bring order back to especially the people that are serving the most vulnerable. So God bless you all, and thank you for letting me part of this and hearing the stories. I'll finish off. I'm in PEI right now, and I was with Yara Sachs most of the day yesterday. She's Israeli. She's the minister that looks after mental health and addictions. And my biggest fear watching her yesterday, constantly on her cell phone, dealing with issues of family. Most of her family is in Israel. I could tell how emotionally traumatized she was. And I can only imagine how, it would be to have family, in danger and harm's way that way, and really be unable to do very much other than to stay in contact. But we're all one family. We all have to lean on each other, and this is the time to do that. So God bless you all. And Brian, anything you, Gary, need, however I can help, I'm here, and I want to be part of that solution. So thank you.
Thank you. It reminds me that some of you may have, who lead other organizations similar to ours, may have staff who are asking questions or need support or are frozen by not knowing what to say. It's okay. It's okay to feel confused and not know exactly what to do. But like in any challenging time, the simplest thing to do is just to check in. Check in with yourself, make sure you're okay. Check in with your colleagues. How are you? Are you okay? Is there anything you want to talk about? I don't think there's anything that can be done, but I think hearing and listening and acknowledging that people are vicariously experiencing the pain, if not through direct awareness. So again, I know in our household, we are on the phone and in contact with all our family all across Israel with various scenarios and situations, including some Canadian family that we're visiting and are trying to get out and how to help them, and others who live there. So just check in, and it's okay to ask, are you okay? And don't be afraid to talk about it. So thank you everyone for joining us. I see there are no, unless there are questions I can't see.
Brian, if I can interrupt, I know that Marcel asked to have one last word.
Sure.
We can allow her to.
רציתי לבקש, מאוד חשוב לי להחזיר בקרב התלמידים והמשפחות שלהם את הרצון לחיות מחדש, להחזיר להם אופטימיות, תקווה, אהבת אדם, אמונה באדם. אם היינו יכולים לייצר משלחות של בני נוער, איזושהי הפוגה, לעטוף אותם, לחבק אותם, שירגישו שייכים, שירגישו שיש טעם לחיות, שיש למה להישאר. לרבים מהם אין בתים, הם יחזרו, הם תלושים. ואם אני צריכה ככה לחשוב מה אני רוצה, אז רגע לעטוף אותם באהבה, בשייכות, במפגש עם בני נוער נוסף. אז זו ככה נקודה שחשוב לי גם להם, גם להורים שלהם, למשפחות, גם לצוות שלי. נצליח לעטוף אותם ולייצר קהילה מחדש ולהחזיר את האמון באדם. זה משהו שאני רוצה, לרצות לחיות.
Thank you, Marcel. I'll try to translate. So Marcel is saying in the last words of conclusion that she would like to restore the sense of humanity, belonging, and camaraderie between her students and between youth. So if there is any way that you can think of, or we can think of in the future, to bring youth together, teenagers, to kind of feel more connected, more part of the community, to restore the faith, to restore the light and positivity within people, that would be her wish, for youth to come together and to restore optimism and humanity. Thank you, Marcel. Thank you very much.
תודה, שרון.
Marcel, we will take that and we will activate that. So I'll work with Ziv and others to put together peer-to-peer connections, just so they hear from others, other young people, even if it's just to play a common game online. I think knowing someone else out there and something positive and something positive light and a reason to live. You mentioned that many of them lost their homes, everything they had. There was more in that got lost in translation. So they're struggling with lots of elements of rebuilding their life. So, with that, I think I appreciate all your time and joining us this morning and this afternoon for the Israelis, and may we see better days, peace in the future. And thank you very much.